Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you here. Today, I would like to explore together with you your relationship with time and how your relationship with time is affecting everything in your life. And through this exploration, it's entirely possible, I would say, in fact, it's perhaps in some ways inevitable that your relationship with time will transform in a way that will allow you to uh, experience more peace, more ease, and also greater success in all areas of your life. So, your relationship with time, as I've already said, is affecting all areas of your life. And when that relationship is non-optimal, then it has a negative impact, and that can be quite significant. I think most people really don't have much understanding of how significant that relationship with time is and how it's affecting all areas of their lives. So, for example, um, your relationship with time, it has a very significant impact on your ability to achieve success with goals. Any kind of goal, whether it's a financial goal or it's a career goal or it's a health goal or any kind of goal. And also certainly has a very significant impact on your uh, level of contentment and happiness in life. So all of these things will improve in your life when you have a more optimal, more accurate relationship with time. So that's what I'd like to explore with you today. As usual, just to set the stage, I'd like to briefly explain what my intention with these meetings is. So my intention is to support you in self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is the essence of why you're here. If you really just take a moment to consider what are you here for? I don't mean necessarily just what are you here for in this meeting, but I mean in general in life. What are you here for? You might start to recognize that really what you're here for is self-knowledge. So everything else that you think you might want, the money and the cars and the relationships and the health and the whatever other things you think you might want, really it comes down to self-knowledge. So self-knowledge is both the means and the end. So when you need the self-knowledge in order to achieve the various things that you think you want, and once you achieve the things that you think you want, it will result in self-knowledge. So it's really the self-knowledge that's the most important thing. So that's the focus and intention of these meetings, is to support you in self-knowledge. So self-knowledge means to know yourself in all ways at all levels. So it means to know yourself at the, let's say, unmanifest and at the manifest level. So at the unmanifest level, it's to know yourself as that uh, awareness or consciousness that is present eternally, that's untouched by everything. So that's one level. But that's not the only level at which we want to know ourselves. It's also important to know yourself at the manifest level. So to know your own mind, to know your own processes, to know your own desires. This is often overlooked by people who are uh, think that they're seeking for some kind of spiritual fulfillment. They've been led to believe that the only way to find spiritual fulfillment is just by knowing themselves as pure consciousness, which sounds nice, but in practice doesn't usually give satisfactory results, because day in and day out, what most of us are troubled by is our manifest self, right? I mean, we're troubled by all of our seeming problems. So we're troubled by feeling like we don't have enough money, or we don't have enough love, or we don't have enough health, or there's something wrong with our emotions. We can't seem to stabilize the positive emotional states. We have trouble with our thinking and all kinds of problems that are happening at that level. So it pays to know yourself at that level, because only when you know yourself in that way can you actually make the changes that will help you to have a more optimal experience. And when you can have a more optimal experience, then it's not going to trouble you so much. So uh, both of these aspects of ourselves, both the manifest and unmanifest, are important. And so here I invite self-knowledge of all aspects of yourself, all aspects of yourself. So that's the intention, is self-knowledge. And I invite you weekly to participate in these meetings in many ways. So one way is, of course, maybe you could say there's an intellectual level, to understand some of the things intellectually. That might be useful. Um, but that's a fairly limited utility. It can be supportive, but it's really only a small part of it. What matters far more than that is the practical. So when you put into practice the things that I share, then you can actually find out for yourself rather than just having it be an intellectual exercise. You can actually discover for yourself the real value of it. And so that's what I am aiming for. Is my invitation is for you to put these things into practice. Uh, only when you put it into practice can you really know for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to go from this thing to the next thing, this YouTube channel to another YouTube channel, and this book to the next book, and so forth and so on. And you'll be confused all along. You won't really know what's the truth. But when you put it into practice, then you can actually know for yourself. So I really do invite you to put these things into practice. Uh, so, with all that said, let's explore time and your relationship with time. So, now you might have heard people talk about time. And you might have heard people say that there's only now. Anybody heard that? And then you maybe heard of the power of now. So there's only now, and then now is very powerful, apparently. So seems like the kind of thing that you might want more of, right? You might want more now because it's all there is, and it's really powerful. So you probably, if you've heard that before, then um, I'm willing to make a prediction, which is that it hasn't done you a whole lot of good, because if it had, then you wouldn't be here right now. So I'd like to explore this um, in some more practical ways. So I'm not going to deny that all there is now, and that it's very powerful. I mean, that's in a sense, it's very obviously true. But what I'd really like to explore is the other things that uh, are necessary for the rest of us in order to make use of that, in order to get the benefits. Wouldn't it be nice not to just read another book or listen to another video that tells you about the power of now, but to actually be able to access it in your real life for yourself? Wouldn't that be nice? So that's what I'd like to explore, is how can you actually begin to have take practical steps so that you can begin to access the power of now, instead of just seeking for it, instead of just crossing your fingers and hoping for it. And part of that comes from real understanding, and that comes through actually looking for yourself. So this will be an invitation that I'll be, we'll actually be looking directly, so you can really see and discover for yourself what is now, what is the past, what is the present, what is the future, who are you in relationship with all of that, what is the real power, how is that power accessed. So let's start by considering that I'll make a bold claim, which is that time is really just a mental construct. And so, and remember, all of this is intended to be of practical value. So this will lead to something of very practical value. So time is just a mental construct. Outside of a uh, outside of the mental construct, there is no thing called time. So time is actually something that you have constructed, or maybe put more accurately, time is something that you construct now. So you make it up. Now, that might seem crazy because you might say, well, hold on a second, but the past is real. I know because I experienced it. So do this exercise right now. Find the past right now. Find anything from the past right now. And let me know if you're able to find something of the past right now. Just let me know with a yes or a no. So I can just have a sense of where people are at. So I have some people saying yes. Yeah, great. Some people say no. So we've got some yeses and some nos. So notice if you find the past, notice what is it that you actually find? So some people have said memory. So if you're finding memory, then notice what is that actually? So what are you really talking about if you say memory? And if it's not memory for you, then just what is it you actually find? So some people are saying images, a taste or a thing I saw, images, sounds, visualizing past environments, lights. Okay. Somebody says events. So how do you know about those events? What does the event consist of? Or how do you know about the event? And how do you know you experience them? What lets you know that? So we've got some people saying feeling it. So notice that what we're really actually accessing right now are images, sounds, feelings, maybe tastes, maybe smells. And you could say that there are also thoughts, but I would say, which is fine if you want to claim that thought is another category, but you could also notice that thoughts themselves are also just more images, sounds, feelings, tastes, and smells. Like if you had a thought that says, this image that's in my mind's eye is from yesterday, then how do you know about that thought? And probably most people would probably say they actually hear something internally, right? Like there's an inner narrator, commentator, somebody in there who's saying that. Like it's saying this is an image. This image is about something that happened yesterday. Or there could be something else, some other way that you know. But the other way that you would know would be that you would either see something, hear something, feel something, taste something, or smell something. So is there anybody here who has any evidence of the past which is occurring to them that is not something that you see, hear, feel, taste, or smell? So can you notice then that the past, as far as you are able to access it, is occurring to you through your five senses? And where, or I should say, when is that happening? It's happening right now, right? It's not happening in the past. It's happening right now. So the past, as far as you're able to actually access it, is really only sensory information occurring right now. Can you find anything that's not sensory information right now that is evidence of the past? And you can just go ahead and say no, because you can't. I mean, but look, notice, can you actually just try and find it? It's such a persistent illusion. It's one that has a very, very strong effect. We really become convinced that there is a thing out there independent called the past. But really, it's actually just happening right now as sensory data. Aha. So somebody says, but there are pictures in movies. Yes. And this is part of that same persistent illusion. So where are the pictures in movies happening? When you're accessing them, they're happening now. Now, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that there might not be a certain kind of utility to it. So if you try and get rid of the past entirely for what it is, then it might make it difficult to relate to people. You know, it might make social gatherings rather awkward. So don't take it to an extreme. But here, the exploration is just to start to open up new possibilities, new options. So it's not to get rid of old options. The old options, keep the old options to the extent that they're useful for you. But let's just open up some new options and see what that might do. So so somebody says I have photos and videos in my phone. It's also sweet. My kids have grown. Yeah, so that's also part of the whole illusion. So notice what's actually happening is that presently there's an experience of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. And part of that is the arising meaning that says, this is from the past. This is proof of the past. These are my children as they were in the past. They've grown. So your relationship with the past or your relationship with time also gives rise to or supports the notion that uh, I have things. These are mine. And that becomes troublesome, right? As soon as something is yours, then you might lose it. Well, it's worse than that. It's certain that you will lose it because all things are essentially illusory. Another way of saying that is that all things are transitory, but really all things are illusory because all things are consist of only seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and smelling, and nothing more. But we overlay or impose the idea that there is a thing there. So you could notice, take any so-called object. So you could just observe any so-called object that's in your present view. And notice, how do you know about it? So you can see it, right? I mean, if you can see it, then you can see it. So there's the seeing. You might be able to feel it, right? If you can touch it, you can feel it. If it makes some kind of sound of any kind, then you could say, okay, I can hear it. If it has a taste, you could taste it. If it has a smell, you could smell it. Is there any other way that you can know about it? And the answer is no. There's no other way you can know about it. That's all you've got. So then, where is the thing itself? So, I mean, if you've got a hand, if nothing else, like I'll just use my hand as an example. So I can see my hand, right? I can feel the hand. I can hear the hand. I can smell the hand. I could taste the hand. I won't do it right now. But um, apart from that, how do I know about the hand? No other way, right? That's the only way I know about the hand. Now, in order to communicate about it, I'm saying hand, but that's part of uh, the magic that's worked by language. So language creates this, or it supports the idea that there is something there. So as soon as I say hand, then we maybe imagine that there is such a thing as a hand. But what is there once I take away the what can be seen, what can be felt, what can be heard, what can be tasted, and what can be smelled? What am I left with? Where is the hand? Apart from those abilities to sense it, there is no hand. So the hand doesn't actually exist. There's just the sensing. The sensing is all that's there. And so if I say it's my hand, well, what am I laying claim to? There's nothing there. Unless I'm clear that all I'm really referring to is that there's uh, a present perceiving, and and that the present perceiving is occurring for no one. Okay, then if I say it's my hand, and what I understand that to mean is that there's a present perceiving occurring to no one, then that's fine. There's no problem with that. But for the rest of us, most of the time, if we say my hand, then it generates the sense that okay, there's an object here called me, and then there's an object here called hand, and this hand belongs to me. It's my hand. Well, now I'm attached to my hand. I don't want anything bad to happen to my hand. I want my hand. I want to keep my hand. But how long will I have my hand? I don't know. I hope that I'll have it for a very long time, but I don't know how long I'll have it. Could have it for another second. I could have it for a day. I could have it for a year. I could have it for 10 years. I could have it for maybe another 100 years. How much longer will I have it? I don't know. Oh, but then, it's tricky because, then, like I'm also associating all kinds of other things with the hand. It's not just, it's not just what's seen and heard and felt and tasted and smelled. It's also, I'm saying, well, there's a certain utility there, right? I want to be able to do things with my hand. I want my hand to function, and I want it to feel a particular way. I don't want it to feel ways that I don't want it to feel. So I want to be able to do the things I want to do with my hand, and I want it to feel the way I want it to feel. Now all of a sudden I'm starting to feel anxious. Well, will I be able to do the things that I want to do with my hand? Will my hand feel the way that I want it to feel? How long will I have my hand doing the things that I want it to do and feeling the way that I want it to feel? I don't know. So, uh, time, if I say, time supports the notion of of having things, of being something and having something. which is itself illusory, which feeds into anxiety. So, if I say my children, then I'm attached, my children. So then, well, what am I really referring to? What do I mean by my children? If I say my children, if I look at an image and I say that image is an image of that was from last year, and I say that's my children, what exactly am I referring to? I mean, so if you look at an image of your children and then and from last year, how do you know they're your children? How do you know that what you see now is your children and what you see in the image is your children? I mean, how do you know that it's the same child? What lets you know that? Because what you're seeing is different, right? What you're hearing is different. What you're feeling is different. What you're smelling is different. What you're tasting is different. It's all different. So how do you know what lets you know it's the same thing? How do you know it's yours and that it's the same? It's illusory. So all of it is we just have, they still annoy me the same way. Well, how do you know that they annoy? How do you know that you're annoyed, and how do you know it's the same way? So you're taking a memory of how you say that you were annoyed, and you're comparing that to how you feel presently, and then you're saying it's the same. What lets you know that it's the same? And how do you know that that's reliable? How do you know it's dependable? So the past is really just something that you're making up now, or let's say it's something that you're experiencing now. And your relationship with that will either be supportive of what you want or not. So if it's supportive of what you want, for the most part, it's not a problem, right? I mean, so if you look at a photo of your kids and when you look at that photo, you say, "Oh, I feel so happy and that's what I want in my life." Okay, not a problem. But a lot of our relationship with the past is not like that. A lot of our relationship with the past is problematic. So our relationship with the past is like, well, that, this, these people did these wrong things to me and I failed in these ways. And this is a predictor of how things will be in the future. So our relationship with the past becomes limiting and problematic and a source of, or rather, yeah, a cause of pain. It's how we produce pain and suffering for ourselves. So that's what I'd like to explore. One of the things I'd like to explore is how you can change that. So the first part of this was just to discover that the past is not really a thing that exists out there. The past is something that exists presently in you, happening through sensory experiencing. So it's not something that's, let's put it this way, it is malleable. It's subject to change like anything else. So if you don't like it, you can change it. If it's not working for you, do something different. And so next I'd like to explore what is something different that you could do. So think about, um, so somebody says, I tend to remember the negative things that happened to me and how I failed to set boundaries, so I avoid those certain environments now, and I have a feeling it could be different now forward. Yeah. So think about those things from your past, which are not optimal. Okay. Think about the things where you feel bad about it when you think about it. And isn't it curious that thinking about this can result in you feeling bad? Why would that be? What is it about thinking about this that results in you feeling bad? So I have a proposal for you. I propose that when you feel bad about what you're thinking about, it's because you haven't yet learned whatever it is you want to learn from that situation. So there's basically it's a problem that you've created for yourself. Okay, so you set out wanting something. You had a particular desired outcome, something that you wanted to achieve, and you haven't yet figured that out. So every time that you think about this thing, it bothers you because you want something, but you don't yet know how to achieve it, or at least you don't yet know that you know how to achieve it. So you experience it as painful. So this would apply to anything. So whatever it is, whatever the thing from the past, if thinking about it now is painful for you or uncomfortable, if you don't like the way you feel when you think about it, my proposal is that it's because there's something there, there's an outcome that you want. You want to learn how to achieve that outcome, but you haven't yet figured it out. And once you do figure it out, then your relationship with that will change. It will no longer pain you to think about it. And somebody says, is it normal that I thought of something not optimal of my past and I didn't feel bad like I used to? Well, that I don't know about normal, but that's nice. Maybe that indicates that something has changed. And what that something is, I can't tell you. It's possible that that something is a result of the exploration that we've done so far. I mean, certainly, remember what I say at the beginning is this is all about self knowledge. So as you better know yourself, then it should happen. It has to happen that your experience changes. So the explorations that we've done so far have resulted in some greater self knowledge, and therefore there will be some change in your experience. And it seems like for you right now, that has resulted in not feeling bad when you think about the things that used to result in you feeling bad. So that to some extent that should happen. To what extent for what people, I can't predict because it depends on various factors. But what we're going to explore next, we'll take this further for if there's anybody who, which I assume there are some of you who still, when you think about some of these things, you feel bad. So so just choose one of the things. Just choose one of the things that when you think about it, you feel bad. And I'd like you to just focus on this one thing. So you'll be able to repeat this with all the others if you'd like. but we'll do it with just one at a time, at least to start. There's ways to do it that you can do many at a time, but we'll start by learning one at a time. Okay, so just choose one thing. And when you focus on it, notice notice if you feel uncomfortable at all. Okay, so uh, in order for this process, this exploration that we're going to do to work well, it's best if you can be reasonably comfortable as you focus on this. Now that if you feel uncomfortable, that might seem odd. You might say, well, how is it possible I could not feel uncomfortable? Part of it is how you are representing it for yourself. So remember that you know about this only because of you're representing this for yourself internally, right? So you're seeing something, hearing something, feeling something, smelling something, tasting something, some combination of those things. And if you're feeling uncomfortable as you focus on that, then it has to do with the way in which you are representing it. So if you are, and as you change the way you represent it, you can feel more comfortable. So, for example, if you represent it visually, if when you think about this thing, you see something in your mind's eye, notice, for example, are you seeing it as though through your own eyes? And if so, then for most people, that will increase the intensity. But if you see yourself, it will usually, for most people, decrease the intensity. So if you actually were to imagine it as though you were seeing it from like you were watching a movie of it, so you could see yourself in it instead of seeing through your own eyes, then for most people, that will make it less intense and therefore more comfortable. You can also notice the size, the location, and other factors. So usually if you represent it really close to you, then that will increase the intensity. If you move it further away, it will decrease the intensity. If there's sound in the way that you represent it, then just notice how loud is it. If you're finding it uncomfortable, make it quieter, move it a little further away. So just make these kinds of adjustments so that it can be reasonably comfortable as you focus on it. Then ask yourself, what is it that you wanted to achieve in that situation? So you actually had a positive intention. Just notice, what was that positive intention? What did you want to achieve? And just, this is a really, really important point. We always have positive intention. Now, sometimes we don't know in the moment the best ways to achieve that, which is almost certainly what happened in this particular case, right? You didn't know the best way to achieve your positive intention, but nonetheless, you had a positive intention. So even if it worked out quite badly, even if you behaved in ways that you might judge as bad, that was only because in that moment you didn't know the better way to do it. But actually, your intention was good. Your intention was a positive intention. So, is there anybody here who's not clear that you had a positive intention and what that positive intention was? Now, here's an amazing thing. You actually have within you everything that you need in order to be able to achieve that positive intention. You just didn't know it until now. So ask yourself now, what inner resources would allow you to achieve that positive intention in that kind of situation? And to the person who's asking the question, you just work. So one thing that comes to mind. So one event, one so-called memory, one thing from the past. And somebody's asking the resources now or in the moment. I felt bad. So it would be the inner resources that had you access them in that moment would have allowed you to have achieved what it is that you wanted, your positive intention. So in that moment, you had a positive intention. That positive intention would have most likely been something like love or connection or happiness or peace or harmony or joy or success. And the question is, in that moment, what inner resources, had you accessed them, would have allowed you to have achieved that positive intention? And there's a part of you that knows the answer to this. You can just allow that answer to come to you. And importantly, inner resources are those things which are always available within you. So they don't depend on any external circumstances. Something that's always there available for you. It's something that you actually have some experience with in some way in your life. In certain contexts, you have accessed these inner resources. You just didn't know up to now that you could access those inner resources in this situation. But now you do know that. And so here's what you can do next is you can just imagine that same situation as it would be when you access those inner resources. So just one at a time, add in access to those inner resources to that so-called memory. So you can know, see, imagine yourself in that situation, accessing each of those inner resources. And as you do that, then notice, how does that change the way that you imagine it? Are you able to now imagine it in a way that you would be successful in achieving your positive intention? And there's a question, these inner resources can be reflected into actions. Yes, of course. The key here, though, is that it starts as an inner resource. And yes, of course, that inner resource will change something. It will be reflected in behaviors somehow, but it starts as an inner resource. So somebody says, I felt the situation was beyond my control. Well, obviously, yes. That's that's why this was problematic for you, is that you felt it was beyond your control. And so notice, though, what was your positive intention? So, I mean, I suppose it will be helpful if I maybe clarify a little bit. So the positive intention is is something that you can experience within yourself. So sometimes, I'll give you an example. let's say that I have a so-called memory in which uh, I wanted other people to I wanted to experience connection and love with other people. But the way I remember it, it worked out very badly. Other people were angry and shouting. So my intention, though, is to experience love and connection. So there may be aspects that are outside of my control, right? I don't control what other people are thinking or feeling, or how they're perceiving. I don't control that. But I do get to experience what it is that I'm wanting. I do get to achieve my positive intention of love and connection. So how might I do that? Well, let's say I'm just giving you an example. Maybe I need to access inner resources of patience, of understanding, of compassion, maybe even love, maybe acceptance. So as I imagine it now, with seeing myself accessing those inner resources, maybe maybe I could actually imagine in a very sincere and authentic way that when I had I accessed those inner resources, that maybe that would have transformed the whole thing in a way that would have outwardly looked exactly the way I wanted it. On the other hand, maybe I can't imagine it in that way. Maybe the way I imagine it, the other people are still misunderstanding and other people are still feeling hurt and angry and they're still shouting. However, it's if I do this successfully, then I'm able to imagine it in a way that I know that I was able to experience the love and connection, which is what I wanted ultimately. So somebody's asking me to repeat. So what I said is, so I was just giving an example. So the example I was giving was that if I had a so-called memory that it troubles me when I think about it, and in this memory, I what I wanted, my positive intention was to experience love and connection. But the way that I remember it, I felt that I felt disconnected, unloved, hurt, ashamed, regretful, confused, and other people were shouting and apparently angry. So I would ask myself, well, what inner resources did I need to access in order to achieve that positive intention of love and connection? And I'm making the point that the love and connection ultimately that I wanted was for me. I wanted to experience love and connection. So maybe I had an ideal that would look like something outwardly. Maybe my ideal is that other people would be smiling and happy and hugging and you know, holding hands and looking very friendly. Uh, However, it's not necessary that it look outwardly any particular way. All that's really necessary is that I need to know that I can achieve that positive intention for myself, which is love and connection. So I was suggesting then that I would ask myself, what inner resources did I need in order to achieve that positive intention of love and connection? And I don't remember all the ones that I proposed. I said something like, well, maybe the inner resources of patience, understanding, compassion, love, something else, acceptance. So then I would imagine that situation with myself accessing each of those inner resources and notice when I imagine it that way, is it sufficient to know that I could achieve that positive intention of love and connection? And it's possible that when I imagine it that way, that I could know that yes, I can definitely achieve the positive intention of love and connection. And maybe I would imagine it now in a new way where I see that everybody else also seems to be happy. Everybody else seems to be feeling that love and connection. It's also possible, though, that I could know that I could achieve that positive intention even if the other people still don't appear to be happy and feeling love and connection. Maybe the other people still seem, in the way I imagine it, to feel angry and confused. But maybe I'm able to know that I can experience love and connection, and that's sufficient. That's all that's necessary. So the transformation is ultimately a transformation within. And whether or not that produces an external transformation is not of particular importance. So somebody says I would have to have applied them to myself first. Well, when I'm not sure what you mean by them, but if you mean the inner resources, then that's the point, is to apply the inner resources to yourself. Yes. So I mean, to give them, to grant them to yourself, and then when you are accessing those inner resources, they apply to universally. So if I'm accessing the inner resource of patience, then I'm patient with my experience. So that would include my experience of myself and my experience of others. If I'm accessing the inner resource of love, then that would mean that I'm able to love, to both extend and receive love toward and from everybody, including myself and others. So when you access the inner resource, then the inner resource applies universally, including to yourself. It's a really important point. So now, notice how that changes things. When you know that you now know how to achieve your positive intention, are you troubled by it any longer? So the past is something that is actually occurring now. There's not an objective thing called the past. There's this present experiencing occurring. And if that present experiencing is problematic, then it indicates that there's something that you want to know, something that you want to learn, some intention that you have that you don't yet have certainty that you know how to do that. And what I proposed is that you actually have the ability to connect things up for yourself so that you know how to do it. All that's required is that you go through this simple exercise. So you just ask yourself, what was my positive intention? And then ask yourself, what inner resources, had I accessed them, would have allowed me to have achieved that positive intention? And then you just add those in to the way that you imagine it until you know that that's all that's needed. You'll actually perceive the whole thing differently. You will not be troubled by it any longer because you'll know that you know how to achieve success in that situation. Now, notice what this also does to your relationship with the future. So, if you had no past, you would have no future. Because actually, the future is just a projection based on the past. If you didn't know anything about the future, I mean, the past, if there was no such thing as the past for you at all, then you couldn't have a future. The future couldn't exist because the future is only a projection based on the past. So when you have so-called past memories that are troublesome for you, because as I've suggested, it's really where you have a sense that you have not yet learned something that's of importance to you. That will necessarily result in you projecting problems into the future because you're telling yourself effectively, well, there are things that happen in life that I don't know how to deal with, and I have undesired outcomes as a result. Therefore, I will likely encounter those kinds of things in the future, and I will fail because I have not yet figured it out. So then you will feel anxious about the future. When you change the past, you change the future. You relieve yourself of the anxiety about the future because you help yourself to know that you know what you need to know in order to achieve success. So uh, it's a very simple yet extraordinarily useful, effective, and powerful way in which you can change your life. So it's actually in this exploration today is enough that if you take this to heart and you apply it consistently, you can completely transform your life in a positive way. Most people will not. Most people will. Most people will say, "Oh, it didn't work for me," or "couldn't be that simple," or any number of other things, and so they won't get the benefits. However, as I've said, this genuinely is a one of those key things that if you just applied this consistently, you could completely transform your life. So I encourage you to do so. For those who are here live, if you have any questions about this or anything else, we can explore that during the group coaching that will start in just a few moments. So if you have any questions about this process, do let me know and we can explore this so that you can get clarity, so that you can put it into practice, because as I've suggested, it's very, very powerful. Really, there's no real limit to what you can achieve with this, because you can uh, just notice how much of your time and energy is consumed by worry about the past and the future. I mean, right now, you have no problem. That's the truth. There's never any possibility of any problem right now. There's only worries about the past and projections into the future. And the worries about the past, well, let's start with the projections in the future. The projections in the future are only based on the worries from the past. So the real source of the future worries is the past. So when you address the past successfully, you also clear up the future. And the past is only something that you are, where you perceive that you don't yet know how to have success. But actually, you have everything that you need in order to have success. You just need to connect it up for yourself. And this simple exercise that I've shared with you today will allow you to do just that. So when you apply this consistently to all the stuff from the past or so-called past that is troubling to you, you can clean all of that up, and that will also clean up the future. So it will change everything for you. You just have to apply it consistently. And so I'll just say a few parting words to people who watch this recording on YouTube. and then we'll get started with the group coaching. So for people who watch us on YouTube, if you're interested in joining these talks live, then I welcome you to do so. And you can do that by signing up on my website. So if you go to my website, then you'll see an option there to presently to sign up to receive the free ebook, which covers 5 of the fundamental laws that govern creation. It's a really valuable guide that I encourage you to actually go through because it will really be helpful to you in your life. And when you sign up for that, you'll also get the information automatically sent to you so that you can join these calls live. Um, when you do join live, then you'll also be able to participate in the group coaching session, which follows, which is a free opportunity to ask questions and get answers. And you can also get direct coaching in a group setting. So it's a really valuable opportunity. And you can get all that just by signing up on my website. I'll provide a link in the description on YouTube. It's joeylott.com. For those who are interested in a more comprehensive program and more extensive support for achieving your goals and really having deeper fulfillment in your life, you may be interested in the Manifesting Truth program. And that is a paid program that I offer. It's a really extraordinary opportunity. I don't know of anything else like it. And you can get more information about that at joeylott.com/manifesting-truth. And I'll provide the link in the description on YouTube. Um, so for those who do watch this on YouTube, I'm going to end this recording now. So blessings to you and bye for now.